Okay, on this module, we'll be talking about getting known locally. And I think it's really a great place to start if you're trying to create a celebrity status or what we call an authority figure in your industry. You got to start somewhere. And we love to start locally with restaurants, banks, and different places that you're going to be going frequently that you might bring a client, okay, or bring a team or create an event from. So you need to grab the attention of local people. And I brought an expert at this here today, Mr. Dr. Marty Fallor. He is a socialite here in San Diego, and he is very well spoken, and has the amazing ability to network with people. So we're going to talk about that here today as we go on with this program. So again, what we're trying to teach you guys here today is the basics to get yourself started at a smaller level. Then you can go from local to nationally to global if that's your choice. So Dr. Marty Fallor, say hello everybody here today.
Good morning, Dennis. Good morning to our audience. It's a pleasure to be here as always. I've appreciated my appearances on the 5-Minute Bark podcast, your multiple hour blab marathons. And I've learned something from our interactions as I have from the other guests and participants. It's always a pleasure to be here with you and share my thoughts and experiences.
Thank you. So Marty is amazing at talking to people, but he also has always shared a great story that I want to share here first before we kind of go into detail about some of his last days as a doctor and ophthalmologist.
Ophthalmic plastic surgeon.
Okay.
My specialty was both ophthalmology as well as plastic surgery. My specialty was cosmetic eyelid surgery. But I do recall that story that we shared on a previous 5-Minute Bark podcast, and I'd be happy to share it again.
Yeah, so
it's sort of it's basically I think a good way to live.
Yes.
In general, basically boiled down to one little interaction I had one morning. But I guess without any further ado, I'll recount the story.
I want to explain a little bit first of this because it's very important because not only has this story come up with you, but I also just recently came back from Tony Robbins, which is one of the biggest motivational speakers in the world. And he had a similar story so this is a very powerful story. And I encourage you guys to listen clearly on what this all comes to be, because this story is about his last day of work and he didn't know it was going to be his last day of work. So I wanted to kind of clarify that. And so we're going to get Marty to talk about this story, and it's
very
great.
good. I like to share it. It's a fond memory, it's sort of bittersweet kind of memory.
Right.
I've been in practice for about 17 years. My specialty was cosmetic eyelid surgery. I was one of the few when I first started that just specialized in that one area. I've always believed when it comes to surgery, if you can find a surgeon specializes in as narrow an area that you want to have repaired or operated on, that's the person you want to go with. So my phone number was and still is 800 eyelids. All I did was eyelid plastic surgery. And for whatever reason, it was a Friday in my office in Westlake Village. I had multiple locations throughout the state. I had one in Utah for a while. But it was my office in Westlake Village. And there was a gentleman I had met in consultation before, very well-to-do, very well-spoken. I think a pillar in his community as well as in his industry. And all the trappings of what you'd expect, well-dressed and well-heeled, again, well-spoken. And he was my first case of the day. And I'd been developing a little bit of shoulder pain, which I just sort of ascribed to sleeping funny or on a wrong pillow or something. And I didn't know it really meant something else, which it did. But I remember that first case of the day, I thought to myself, I've been in practice for almost 17 years, almost 15,000 cases. And yet here I sit with this gentleman, still so very appreciative of him choosing me to be his surgeon. And that I said, boy, that's an interesting thought to have, first thing on a Friday morning at 6:30 in the morning. And I realized that he, not him by himself, but he as a group represented my entire lifestyle. Everything that I had accomplished was based on people like him trusting me to do their surgery. And I felt so appreciative of that one person, and in aggregate with everybody, the previous 15,000. And I thought to myself, I wonder, after all these years and all these patients, I wonder if that feeling will ever go away. And then right on the heels of that thought was, I hope it doesn't. I hope it does. I hope I still have this feeling freaking 5 or 10 years from now. Well, there was a little part of me, the devil and the angel on the shoulder thing. The devil part was saying, Who else would he go to, man? You're like the man. You know, who else is he going to go? Who else has your experience in either plastic surgery? He should go to you. And I said, no. I said, be quiet, devil on my shoulder. I'm going with the angel part of me that really does appreciate each and every one that I have contact with. And as it turned out, that little shoulder pain I had ended up being a cervical disc issue, which resulted in some numbness in the fingers of my left hand and ended my practice. And that was my last operating day. I didn't realize it. So I guess my hope that it would never go away came true. It never did go away. And what I did carry forth from that, because I remember the last day you do something, or the first day you do something, is often quite memorable. Right. And what I've carried away from that is that I still appreciate people in my life. I still appreciate everyone I interact with, and I try to do the best I can on their behalf as well. Right. So whether it be the waiter, the valet parker, the person at the bank, whatever it is it feel that appreciation genuinely and try when you can to show that appreciation. It's not only good for them, it's good for us too. It's good for me too. You know, is that a type of selfishness? I suppose, but that's the kind of selfishness I can deal with. If it makes you feel good to help somebody else, if that makes you selfish, guilty as charged, Your Honor.
Right. So it's very important to make relationships with all these people. I mean, obviously you're saying from a genuine in fact, you do it anyway, but if people were actually going to pay attention to that now and going forward, we can just show them the enormous amount of benefit, both in sales and in communication and in just connection in general. And I'm really trying to express to people that, hey, you know what, these people you're just throwing your keys in at the valet or the person you're throwing the check at in the restaurant, these people have more value in your life than you'll ever imagine.
Oh, for sure. And it's happened countless times in my life. I met someone who was a waiter one day and was running some incredible event about 2 weeks later. It was a sold out thing. I just sort of wandered by. It was being held over at Park, a popular nightclub here in San Diego. And I wandered by thinking maybe I might be able to get in. And he was at the front. He said, Marty, how are you? I just met him once, you know, but we had a nice interaction at the restaurant. I'm thinking, boy, you've really come a long way in 2 weeks. Little did I know he was helping a friend out. That's why he was working as a waiter at that moment. But I didn't know that at the time. Well, I knew he was very nice to me. He was very nice to my date for the evening. And we struck up a bit of a conversation. And you know, talk about a quick turnaround on a minimal investment of courtesy, a minimal investment of consideration, minimal investment of kindness. Boy, I got a great payoff. Right. No, I got in. Plus, I got a VIP wristband. It's like, this is as good as it gets.
That's right. So
then from there was some other fellow that I had met briefly at some other event, a photographer that I struck up a conversation with. And they were doing some video promotions for a friend's new liquor company. He said, you want to do a video? Yeah, why not? I don't know how many views we've gotten, but it's been a lot. Right. And one thing leads to another.
To another.
Exactly. And everything along your way, it's not, you know, what they say, it's not the journey, but the destination. Yes. I think there was a book written called the the Art of Motorcycle Maintenance or something in Zen. But basically the concept being trying to be put forth by the book was that, you know, along each way, every day of your life is that next step on your journey. You can't just focus on the end, which you need to do to some degree, but enjoy the journey along the way. Yes. And have as much fun. Try to bring as much happiness to yourself and to people around you as possible. And I think that leads to as rich a life as we can have. I don't mean just rich in terms of monetary. I mean just in terms of feeling good at the end of the day when you put your head on that pillow.
An essential fact, people that are trying to accumulate a lot of money are trying to actually communicate relationships with that money, right?
Yes,
and
right.
You'll probably hear that a lot from very wealthy people. They just want love in their life. They want connection. And if you can go out and do that naturally, and of course, sure, today we're talking about making connections so you can make more money, you can be more successful, but that's not the full intention. Is it? The intention is, of course, if you know other people and they can know, like, and trust you, then sure, they're going to be able to trust you in business. But it's important to understand that you're giving back in two different ways here. You've given back to the waiter, you've given back to the bank teller, you've given back to all these different people with your courtesy and kindness.
Right.
And it's very important. And that carries us through to exponential situations. For example, I just went to Miami, was on a show out there. And
I did see that, by the way, the Grant Cardone show.
Yes.
And I thought you did a great job. In fact, I think I reposted it on my wall shortly thereafter.
Yeah, it's a great experience. But prior to that, I had flown in a day early and I got to meet a few people. And in meeting one of these people, I said, yeah, I'm going to the Tony Robbins event. And because I expressed kindness and I listened and just like, you should go to it. And I'm like, well, you know what? I got an open-ended plane ticket. Why not? So we looked into it and I said, I really don't want to pay full price. It's a lot of money. I'm not really here for this. And I said, well, let's do some phone calls. So they made a few phone calls and sure enough, they were trying to work on this. The next day was my Grant Cardone showing. And lo and behold, one of the people that person called happened to be at the Grant Cardone show doing an interview.
I love it.
And it turns out to be one of Tony Robbins' assistants or a strategic manager guy that goes around to the local area and promotes the event. I mean, if I would not have been genuine in that conversation and taken the time to speak with this person and listen, because most of the time you're not listening, you're on your phone. I wouldn't have listened to that name I heard, which then I went to that event and heard his name again. And now I'd end up going to see Tony Robbins as a VIP.
And perfect. That just happened a week ago, 2 weeks ago. Perfect.
Less than a week ago.
Exactly.
And that went on to go on to other things and to other things. And I got to meet his top dogs and I got to go slot 5 with them. And, all this would have happened if I was just the fly-by-night person that wasn't paying attention to the people around me. I would have been the person in the back of the room, which is a great experience. Yeah. But I wouldn't have gotten a chance to hang out with Tony or talk with these people and share these events. And now I got over 25 friends from this event from one interaction where I listened and got this person's name and realized that this is the same name as the same person. I mean, it could totally have slipped by me.
Yes. So easily. So easily. These moments in time that we might not grasp, if you had only known what could have been accomplished if you had made that little bit of extra effort. I was at a friend's very premature funeral and at his eulogy a couple of months back. And one of his very dear friends made a point about him that I hadn't really thought about. And this is a gentleman, successful, semi-retired, mostly retired. But he said about him something very interesting that I haven't forgotten. It's been months. He said, Bobby would always listen to people with the idea of, how may I help you? I thought, what a great way to have an interaction with somebody is to listen. I mean, I guess it doesn't have to be that way. If they have to help, they're not even looking for help. But that would be his attitude. Let's have a conversation. I'm going to be listening with some sort of way that I can assist you on your path. And I thought, this is beautiful. I mean, I think it's enough to be an active listener and to be considerate and really listen to what people say rather than being on your phone or think about what your next response is going to be. But that really summed up who this guy was. And I realized back in my conversation with him, he'd always do that. I mean, not that I often needed anything. I usually didn't. But I look back, that's who he was listening for. He was listening for some cue where he could help me out or somehow assist me along my journey, along my way, with nothing expected in return.
Right.
And I've noticed that constantly in my life, in terms of things I've gotten involved with, it seems like the less personal motivation there is to be involved with something, the more it tends to come back in my direction. The more altruistic, the more payoff. Even though I go into something not expecting anything back in return, those are the ones that pay off. The ones where I think, hey, this is going to work out really good for me. This is pretty cool. They may go someplace, they may not. I've tried to get a little bit more savvy on my judgments on those things. But the ones where it's just altogether altruistic, those have had paybacks in countless ways.
And once you establish these relations, you can surely, hey, you need to get into an event. You can call up a few friends that you've now made friends with. Hey, I need to get to the restaurant and I need to get in there. Hey, is there anything we can do? You know what, Marty, you've been a great customer. You've paid attention to us. We got a spot for you.
We'll figure it out.
We keep a couple tables for our special guests.
And you don't forget about your friends. I'm host a number of different social events here in San Diego, sometimes even in LA. And I don't forget those people, and I'll go out of my way. My photographer friends, hey, you want to go to this event? Not as a photographer, they got plenty, but we're friends.
Right.
Come as my guest. You enjoy the evening instead of having to run around with your camera all the time. And they'll still come with their cameras and they'll still do stuff. Or different service people that I know that might not have access to these events. I've got tickets for this event. Be happy to share those with you. And you sort of keep the goes around comes around. That karma golden rule: do unto others as you'd have them do unto you. And so when I do have tickets for different events, if I give them to somebody, I always always tell them sort of a similar story if they'll listen to me, which they generally will, is that please, if you can't use the tickets, don't let them go to waste. Please try to pass them on to somebody that
Would
could.
like 'em.
Because I'd say no more than about 4 or 5 years ago, I hardly knew anybody in San Diego. I was in Rancho Santa Fe, the sort of secluded community, and I just didn't really get out that much. And in the last 5 years, most of my friends currently, my closest friends, are people I've made in the last several years. But before I had those friendships, I would see in the society pages the annual Christmas gala, the annual Easter ball. And I think, oh, I wish I could have gone. But I didn't know anybody. So I'm sure there are people like that today who are at the same level I was 5 years ago.
And let's talk about that. Somebody who's just never created a social celebrity status, so is exactly what we're actually looking for here today. They haven't created a celebrity status. Where can they start? I'm suggesting banks, suggesting restaurants, suggesting what do you
grocery stores, a valet parker, different venues. Say hi to the bouncers that have a tougher job than you can probably imagine. I mean, most of us, I think, drink responsibly, but some don't, and these bouncers have to deal with these people. And the door people at different clubs that you might go
to. Hotels,
the doormen, the
golf club.
Yeah, the caddies. Again, valet parkers, the
tellers at the bank,
the valets that or the baggage handlers at different venues that you go to more than like once a year. But even if it's no more than once a year, it never really hurts to be kind and be considerate. And there's places I haven't been for 6 months, and I'll come back and someone will remember me. It's like, wow, that was pretty cool. I guess I made some type of an impression on this person. But these are the people that know oftentimes what's going on more than.
That's what I was going to say. Why should we pay attention to those people? I know, but why?
Yeah,
my audience. Why would they pay attention to those people?
For sure. Well, for one, it's nice to have an interaction with somebody who's handling your car or handling your baggage, or directing you to a good restaurant in the area if you're new to the area. So it's just the right thing to do, I feel, to be pleasant and helpful, basically pleasant and basically courteous to them, rather than just assume that they're handmaidens to you, because they're really not. They're people as well. So in and of itself, that to me is its own reward, just having a positive interaction with somebody. But the secondary gain that goes along with that is
they're well-connected people.
Yeah, and these are people that do know what's going on. So if you're come a weekend, you're not sure what's happening, you can give a call to the front desk. Hey, is so-and-so the valet working? Hey, this is Marty. I haven't seen you for a couple of weeks, but I remember you took really good care of my car. I'm looking for something interesting for the weekend. You've got your hand on the pulse of things better than I do. Can you recommend or suggest something? You might say, you know what, shoot, I'm working this whole weekend. I haven't been paying attention. But you know what? I think I know somebody who does. And then there's a new person that you can contact and interact with in a positive way. And you've all of a sudden gotten a new contact. But yeah, in your daily life interactions, you can have a small dinner party. You can have a small just cocktail party, a pre-party for an event, at your house, your apartment, condo, whatever. Not hundreds of people, 10, 10 people that you may have just recently met. It'd be nice to interact or hang out with these people. That's a nice way to start.
So people out there that are asking the question right now to themselves, how does this transition into sales?
Well, I think the more people know who you are and what you do, the more they'll think, wait a minute, I know somebody who's looking for somebody, for this. I do have a difficulty with sometimes, to be frank, I've been in the community for a long time, not socially active, but business-wise, and I already have a number of established contact people. I've got my real estate broker friends. I've got my mortgage broker friends. I've got accountants and financial advisors. So when someone comes to me brand new and asks me to recommend them, they just got their license, the ink on their license isn't even dry yet. It's not that easy to say, well, okay, I'll start referring you business. What I will say is I'll give them advice. Go people that apartment dwellers that people that are renters currently, because you can grow with them. You can help them get their first time. But people that I know generally are in their second and third houses already. They already have their relationships. it's a little bit awkward for me to all of a sudden, out of the blue, recommend you to them. More importantly, though, the people that I do have in my circle, I feel awkward about not being loyal back to them. I mean, I had this conversation with somebody just last week, and I said, I'll give you this scenario. Pretend you've been in the insurance business for 10 years, or even better, 20 years. And I've been your client for the last 20 years. You're taking care of me. And all of a sudden, you hear through the grapevine, I've referred somebody new, and it wasn't you, for some insurance work. How would that make you feel?
Right.
And he said, I can appreciate that. And he deals with doctors a lot. So I said, hit up the residency programs, hit up medical students, people that you can grow with as well. I'm already past that stage. I already have people that I need to remain loyal to.
Right.
I'll invite you to stuff. You can maybe try to make your own contacts through events that I might be able to invite you to. But on a personal level, it would be difficult for me to be disloyal to people that have built up a loyalty with me.
So it's very important for them to understand that loyalty, that investment now of anybody they meet, whether it's a doctor or a valet or something, will have a long time longevity.
Right.
Correct?
And they're not going to have multi-million-dollar clients off the top of the bat.
No.
Those people already have their contacts. You'll have a buyer looking for a starter condo. You'll have someone looking for insurance that has a small new business, or just needs a small amount of life insurance, or some type of insurance coverage. It's not going to be big dollars at first, but you need to have patience and build with those people. And maybe there will be somebody that they know, possibly that will be making it pretty big. I mean, certain professions go from pretty much 0 to 100 pretty rapidly.
Right.
The legal profession is one of them. Medical profession could be one of them, depending on what specialty you end up choosing. So you can have somebody, just making a modest salary this year, who's a millionaire in 2 years.
Right.
And if you had just spent the time or the attention to him when no one else would, he'll remember that, and he'll be loyal to you also, and he'll take you along the way. And he'll build up a number of people like that. I mean, when I was in medical school, I'm a travel agent. So I was a medical student. I had no money, coming with, worn, tattered jeans. I mean, not like stylish. I mean, this is worn, tattered jeans. Yep. And they wouldn't have the time of day for me. And I thought, you know what? Since then, even when the travel agents were still around, I wouldn't bother with them. I'd book directly with the travel agencies, or I'd go on the internet. It's like, you didn't have any patience for me, when I didn't have much money and I wasn't spending a lot of money on travel, just, the bare bones minimum. Okay. There are other ways to go. And, one of my few negative experiences, I still sort of, again, it was just one of those things about business. I don't blame them for not treating me well. Yep. But I sort of do. And if they had, they could have had years worth of business, of big ticket items that would have been very much in their favor. There was a scene from the movie Pretty Woman with Julia Roberts. I don't know whether you ever saw the movie.
Yes,
I'm dating
times.
myself. There was a scene where Julia Roberts comes in, and she's dressed the way, sort of average person was dressed, and goes into some very fancy store on Rodeo. And they treat her
like trash.
Like trash. Okay, I guess appropriate the way she was dressed, but not really. It's never appropriate to treat anyone like trash, but they did. She comes back the next day, loaded to the gills, and she's got the finest clothes on and jewelry, and she walks in the same store, talks to the same salesperson, and said, I think I met you yesterday. Said, you work on commission, don't you? She said, yes. I said, yeah, that's too bad. And goes to someone else, or goes to a different store. Yep. And, I guess, not that I'm anywhere near Pretty Woman, but I felt that same kind of a thing where, when I don't have much and you don't think much of me, when I do have something, I don't know if I really be spending too much time or worrying about you either.
Right.
Thanks a lot for for giving me a little more freedom.
I had a friend of mine, I used to be a professional bike rider, and he was pretty well off, and he was riding his little kid bike, and he went into a parking lot, and the security guard was giving him some hard time. Get a job, get a car. And he went and he put his bike in the back of the Porsche 911 and drove out, and he said, yeah, that's right. You might want to get a job.
I love it. I love those kind of stories. When people underestimate you, but one thing I will say is that if you always come across positive, always come across with courtesy, kindness, people will tend not to judge you no matter what they otherwise wouldn't be inclined to do. And so even if you're not quite dressed to the part, if your approach and your attitude is one of positivity, and again, that interest in learning about people and helping, it's hard not to miss with that.
Right.
I was at W Hotel in Hollywood on Sunday evening. I was with a couple of different people. And I had struck up a conversation with the original person at the door, and then they have a little VIP section. And I guess it was a sold-out VIP section. I didn't even ask them. They just handed me a wristband, put it on me. And my friends, who were a couple of people back, tried to get in, and they couldn't. And I said, okay, well, I'm not going to, no man left behind is my attitude when I'm out. So I had to, I rejoined my friends. But it was interesting, just on the basis of this positive attitude. I was thrilled to be there. I just come from LA Fashion Week. Yep. It was all fun. And so I was happy to be out on a Sunday evening, which usually is a relatively slow night.
Right.
So somehow, maybe this guy could read that. This is a guy who's enthusiastic, dressed for the part. He seems happy. Yeah, why not? One more person in the VIP is not going to kill anything. And yet my friends who were, I don't know, maybe they were in their own heads. Nothing wrong with what they were doing, how they were acting.
Different energy.
A different energy. And I think people can perceive that. I notice it with dogs, to be frank. Yeah. I love dogs. I'm not a dog lover, cat hater. Cats are okay too, but I love dogs.
They'll notice your energy.
Even dogs that otherwise don't get along with people, boy, he doesn't like anybody. He seems to like you. It's like, I don't know, man. He must be picking up some vibe, because I love dogs.
All right. So with ending, I know you're really good at approaching people. Is there any tips we can give people as we end this here for approaching people? Maybe some first good lines to create the genuine connection in these situations.
I think when it comes to the service industry, it's very easy. They're there to serve you. If you just show some interest or some consideration back to them, even to the point of, and if you have to feel it though, you have to feel it. It doesn't want to be feigned. You don't want to be fake. Compliment them on something. I had an interaction with someone I was over at Pump Restaurant, Lisa Vanderpump's newest restaurant after Sir. And it was packed, no tables available. But I walk over to the gal at the front, and I said, any cancellations? Yes, right here. It's like a 2-minute wait time. The manager came over a little bit later, and I said, I don't go out to dinner that much. I go out all the time, virtually every night, but not to dinner that often. I said, this is one of the best dining experiences I've ever had. I said, and it was on its way to being that way from the very beginning when I got seated so quickly, to the fabulous food, to the excellent, waiter that we had. And I really appreciate that. I got his card, made some contact with him. But a genuine compliment that comes from the heart about somebody is a very nice way. Or I think I've shared this with you in the past, is to make sure you get their name straight. And the best way to do it, have them spell it. Yes, and for me, being a very visual learner, even though they spell it obviously auditorily, I visualize it in my head, and I can remember the name better. So I do see them again, I can remember them by name, or at least have a fighting chance of it. And then even taking the moment to ask them how to spell their name, it shows a little bit more of an interest than just, hey, I'm just passing by.
Just that one little trick could change everything.
Erica with a C or a K, Sarah with an H or no H, Anne, E at the end or no E at the end. Yeah. And because it shows, hey, I'm not just asking my name. He maybe he's interested in who I am as a human being.
Exactly.
So I think that's a good opening. So to leave this on that type of a note, what's a good way to get to sort of get past that initial awkwardness, because we have that sort of barrier between a stranger, the whole stranger danger thing.
It's innocent,
but and there's nothing loaded behind it, and again, I think people warm up to it.
Yep, it's better than the people that walk up straight up and give you a card before they even say a word. You have that all the time, and that's machine, that's mechanic, that's not real.
Right.
And what we want to do is create these relationships with all these different people out there, and it doesn't matter who you create with, whether it's your spa, your restaurant, your bank. Create these relationships locally, everybody, and make sure you do your due diligence by being genuine. Okay, and you heard here today, there's some texts out there asking for their name, talking about their shoes. I've seen those shoes before. Who's the brand? I've seen that shirt.
Yeah, and just a genuine compliment, and why not? And again, it goes back to what we talked about before, making someone happier than they were before they met you, and somehow at the end of the day, where they will look back on your interaction with them as being a positive for their day, and it makes you feel better to know you're doing that too.
Yep.
So
awesome,
very good.
So everybody, this concludes learning to be known locally. We hopefully gave some great tips here today, along with all the other materials in this course. But you're learning here today from an expert at it. This guy, that's what he does for almost a living. Now, he doesn't make a living doing it, but this is what he does every day, is he just enjoys going out and meeting people, and his extensions of connections just go further and further every day. So we hope we helped you here today, and we're on to the next course.